Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Facebook Live with GAE. I am Lisa Morgan, a kindergarten teacher and the current GAE president.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sharon Doe. I'm a physics teacher in Augusta, Georgia, and I'm the GAE vice president.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Carly Shaw. I'm a physical science teacher in Fulton County, and I'm the current secretary treasurer of GAE.
Joe,
2 years into this. I'm Joe Fleming. I'm the lobbyist for the Georgia Association of Educators.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Tony Smith, a retired teacher and president of the Georgia Association of Educators, retired.
1:35 p.m. We are currently not allowing visitors in parts of our area. Please check Emory House.
Hello, I'm Judy Polachek, and I am a retired paraprofessional, member of GAE Retired, and I am the current president of the Organization of DeKalb Educators Retired.
Hi, I'm Patrick Crabtree. I'm the secretary for GAE Retired. I apologize for my camera. It's not working too well, but I am here.
thank you, Patrick. And I don't know. Okay, so this evening we are going to be talking about a couple of things that our retired members are here because they have experienced this. But those of us who are active, it's kind of we need to know what's going on and what's happening. So the first thing we're going to do to learn about the government pension offset and the windfall elimination provision is have a video that explains it. And this is from Texas. So when you see the T, know that it's from Texas. But we want you to see this so everyone will kind of know what it's talking about. So give me just a second and I will share.
Meet Kim. Kim is an assistant principal at a middle school. She's been a TRS member for 12 years. Before becoming an educator, Kim worked as a public librarian for 11 years. While working for the city, Kim paid into the Social Security system. Since she began working for her school district, Kim has not paid into Social Security. Like most Texas school districts, her district does not participate in Social Security. That means Kim is only eligible for Social Security benefits based on her previous employment with the city and through her spouse, who has paid into Social Security for his entire career. Kim is currently reading up on 2 Social Security provisions that could reduce or even eliminate her Social Security benefits. The Windfall Elimination Provision, also known as WEP or WEP, and the Government Pension Offset or GPO. Because Kim will receive a TRS pension for employment in which she did not pay Social Security taxes, the Social Security benefits she earned from her previous employment could be reduced by the WEP but not totally eliminated. The amount of the reduction depends on the amount of her earnings and the number of years she paid Social Security taxes. The GPO, however, could offset or even eliminate Kim's spousal benefits if she retires from her current employer. The GPO will reduce her spousal Social Security benefits by 2/3 of her TRS pension. If 2/3 of Kim's TRS pension exceeds the amount of her spousal benefits from Social Security, she will not receive a spouse or widow's Social Security benefit. If you or your spouse has paid into the Social Security system, contact a Social Security representative to determine if the WEP or GPO apply to you. Ask if there are any exceptions to the GPO that could eliminate the offset to your spousal benefits. Be prepared to balance out the potential effects of these provisions with personal savings when you retire.
So, that is a little bit about GPO and WEP and what it does to people. So, Judy, we know you were an ESP. So can you tell us how this has impacted you?
Well, before I was an ESP, I was originally a social worker and did pay into Social Security, but that was back in the 60s and the early 70s. I did not have 40 quarters, so I could not get Social Security on my work since DeKalb County opted out of Social Security. When I applied to receive Social Security on my husband's, it was drastically reduced by my TRS, which is not all that big to begin with, but it was very, very much reduced. But then the kicker is that every time I get a COLA from TRS, Social Security reduces almost that total amount from my Social Security. So, my COLA is not all that big. If I get a $20 to $25 a month raise, Social Security deducts almost that entire amount.
So you're never able to actually see an increase?
Never, never. And it doesn't matter how little I'm getting, they still deduct it. And I get letters from them twice a year to report my income from TRS and any changes in my pension.
Okay, we had one of our people that's watching asked the question, and she said a COLA. And so, yeah, one of the great benefits in our teacher retirement system here in Georgia is that once you retire twice a year, you get a cost of living increase on your TRS. But so that's a good thing for those of us who will be retiring from TRS. But then the Social Security issue makes it worse.
And definitely, if there are any paraprofessionals that are listening, you know that our TRS is not huge.
Right.
And it's just kind of like a slap in the face for Social Security to deduct that small amount. And I've talked to them several times and there's no way around it. I've talked to my representative's office, Hank Johnson's office, to see if there was anything that they could do to help. And again, there's no way around it.
Unless they repeal those two things.
Unless they repeal, and if it was repealed, if it was retroactive.
It would have to be retroactive. Okay. So, Judy, your situation impacted your spousal benefits. Patrick, yes. And we understand if you're still having camera issues. I wanted you to tell us, I know Patrick's one of those people that worked in another state as a teacher. And Patrick, did you pay into Social Security?
Let me tell the whole story. And
you tell the whole story, Patrick.
I began working and teaching in Mobile, Alabama. And in Mobile and in the state of Alabama, they take out both Social Security and teacher retirement. So I had a very small paycheck because they were taking out both. I said, well, at least when I retire, I'll have a nice paycheck when I retire. Well, I worked for 13 years and then I became ill and fell out and withdrew from the system, and I got well. And then I did not go back to teaching in Alabama, but I have 13 years there that they took out Social Security and teacher retirement. And while I was working there first, before I became ill, I was working 2 jobs. So I was paying extra Social Security because I was working almost 30 hours or more a week on my part-time job. Then once I got well, I wasn't sure I was going back into education. So I worked full-time retail and substituted, and they took out, again, Social Security, teacher retirement for Alabama. Then I moved to Atlanta in 2000. They don't take out Social Security, but I worked every summer for 7 years down in Orange Beach, Alabama, every day. And then after 7 years, a hurricane destroyed the business and he didn't reopen that location. So I did not work anymore up until I retired. So in the meantime, I have well over 40 quarters, which is required. And I've been in just regular retail or a regular job and not education, or another job that did not take out Social Security, it would not have affected me. But because it did, I am deducted $200 a month. My Social Security retirement check is $461. Now that is working over basically 20 years, paying into Social Security and working part-time. So it really was a slap in the face when I saw that $461. It's not very much money. 200 more, let me be fair now. I would have had 200, but I retired early, so it's 400 out there, but still, $600 more a month would have made a big deal instead of 461. 661 is a lot of money.
It is. And I know we have people, oh, Patrick, we'll have to return. I know we have lots of educators that we are working with right now throughout our state who do not realize that when they retire, this is going to happen. And I know educators who are working part-time jobs after school every day, thinking that that's going to mitigate and that, oh, I'm working my part-time job, I'm paying into Social Security. It won't impact me, but it does. And Tony, I know I want to hear your story, and also how we can help our colleagues understand what this is going to mean for them.
Well, my story is similar to Patrick's. I earned my 40 credits of Social Security qualifications. You earn 4 credits a year. You have to have 40 credits to qualify to receive your Social Security benefits. And you can earn those credits by working any job that withdraws Social Security withholding from your paycheck. So I did. But I also taught for 25 years in DeKalb County. And the year after I started working in DeKalb County, they stopped withholding Social Security. So when I finally reached Social Security age, which for me was 66 and 4 months, I received my Social Security benefits, they should have been a little over $1,000, but because of the windfall elimination provision, after my Medicare premiums are withheld, I receive $157 from Social Security each month, $157 out of almost $1,000 that I should be receiving. Now, the other thing is that my spouse paid into Social Security for his whole career. So I should be entitled to survivor benefits should he predecease me. However, because of the government pension offset, if he predeceases me, I will not get any spousal benefits because 2/3 of my pension is more than his Social Security spousal benefits would be. And therefore, all of those benefits would be taken from me. So I would not be able to live independently if my husband predeceased me, even though I would get a portion of his pension. He worked a union job and he has a union pension. I would not get his Social Security spousal benefits, and therefore I would have to go live with my children. I couldn't have an independent and dignified retirement if my husband predeceases me because of the government pension offset. And you see how much money I'm losing because of the windfall elimination provision. We have to make sure that young active educators understand the impact of not paying into Social Security. Yeah, you get a slightly bigger paycheck, but having an independent and dignified retirement is one of the benefits of working in education. And if Social Security makes a difference in your being able to do that, you won't have it because of the windfall elimination provision, and you won't have your spousal benefits because of the government pension offset. So we need to write, call. There is a Social Security Fairness Act now in this Congress, and we need to write, call our Georgia delegation in the House of Representatives to get our delegation to sign on and co-sponsor this piece of legislation. And not only because we only have 4 representatives from Georgia who've done that: Johnson, Hike, Williams, and who's the 4th one? It escapes me, it'll come to me. And only 4 of the Georgia delegation have signed on to co-sponsor this bill. Resolution.
David Scott.
David Scott. Okay, so we first need our Georgia delegation to sign on to co-sponsor this resolution. And then we need to lobby our senators and all senators to vote for this piece of legislation when it passes the House, because it will pass the House. Over half of the House has signed on as co-sponsors to this bill, but only 4 of our representatives from Georgia have signed on, and that's a shame. So first of all, you need to pick up the phone and call. You need to pull out your phone and your tablets and your laptops and write and say, please sponsor this significant piece of legislation. The Social Security Fairness Act is important for educators, and not just for educators, but for anyone who works in public service: police officers, firefighters, county nurses, anyone who works in a regional hospital, anyone who works in a government job who does not have Social Security taxes withheld from their paycheck will fall victim to the windfall elimination provision and to the government pension offset.
And could I add one thing to that, Lisa?
Certainly.
My husband worked for about 65 years paying in Social Security. And the government is saying that as his widow, I am not eligible for the full spousal amount. That's not fair. I mean, it is absolutely not fair. And as Tony said, it's a matter of having to be dependent on your family and being able to live independently. So I just wanted to add that.
Tony, I would want to add one other thing. So there's 3 bills apparently pending in Congress that impact windfall elimination and the offset. One of the bills has a majority of the House of Representatives as sponsors. So there's a problem here also with the leadership of the House not making this a priority. I would encourage not only letters to the Georgia congressional delegation, but to Speaker Pelosi's office as well. Like I said, there's a bill pending right now. It's got 237 sponsors out of 435 members. We've got to also show collectively across the country the Democratic leadership that this is a priority as well, to have hearings on the bills and begin to move them forward.
And Joe, help me out here. My representative, my state representative, begins all her newsletters with, I am not a congressman. I don't go to Washington. Because I know a lot of times people are confused when we say Congress and your representative. So tell us who these people are that we need to be contacting.
Sure. So let me see if I can find a list real quick. So first of all, Georgia has 14 Congress persons representing us in Washington, D.C. That's different from the 57 or 56 state senators that represent us and the 180 state House representatives that represent us. Congress deals with issues of related to Social Security, and that's where we need to focus our attention. If you give me a moment, I'll post all the names in the chat box of the members of the congressional delegation. A quick and easy Google search will give you their email. GAE retired has done a terrific job of encouraging our congressional delegation to sign on to these, but there's more to be done. And it's really interesting to me, the diversity of sponsors. They range from the very most conservative Republican to the most liberal Democrat and everybody in between that recognize that this is a problem and it's having an effect on Americans that I don't believe was intended, and putting a lot of retired Americans in jeopardy. Tony's totally right. This may not affect you right now, but it will be an issue if you're teaching in a district that doesn't fund Social Security. So give me 1 second. I'll post the members of the congressional delegation into the chat box, and that's where we can begin to make our communications.
And
And that's what I found curious about this GPO web. It doesn't affect all districts in Georgia. Only some of the districts are affected. And even on a larger scale, only 15 states do this affect the teachers in only 15 states. So how do they determine who gets affected by this GPO web?
it's the districts and the states that withdrew their employees from Social Security. And like you said, it's not everybody in Georgia. It's not all educators. And one of the things that I've seen, there's a misconception, even sometimes amongst educators, they don't know that this is going to impact them because they don't realize they're not paying into Social Security. Because if you think about it, Okay, all of us. How often are you checking your pay stub? Especially now that your pay stub isn't a paper pay stub, it's in your email, maybe, or you have to go to a website. And even then, people don't know what to look for to know if they're paying Social Security. So it's like Tony said, she was in DeKalb when they took us out right after she started. The decision was made by people 30 years ago.
Lisa, and there's one more thing to add to that. When I started in DeKalb County in 1985, for the first number of years, people were leaving DeKalb when they were reaching retirement age and going to work in another counties like the city of Decatur schools that was in Social Security. And if they worked there for 1 year and had enough hours to equal 40, they would be eligible for their full benefits or of their ordinary benefits, Social Security. And that's what people were doing back then. And in recent years, that was changed to, I think you have to work, I believe it's 5 years.
5 years.
After you're retired. So they do everything to make it harder for us.
So Joe, when this originally came about, what was the purpose of it? It had to have some kind of benefit, and why wasn't it foreseen that it would penalize people who worked in education and police officers, firefighters, postal workers? Why wasn't this already researched enough to know that this would be detrimental to those people when they retired?
I think Judy or Andy could probably answer that better than I could.
Well, I did not work for DeKalb County when they withdrew from Social Security, but people that I know that did said that a vote was taken and that actually people were more or less threatened if they voted against leaving Social Security. It was not a good situation. And this is former officers of ODE that have said this. So it was not a particularly democratic decision. And in DeKalb County, when they pulled out of Social Security, they had an agreement with the employees that they would pay into a private fund that supposedly would be similar to Social Security. And part of the agreement was that if for any reason they decided to stop paying that, they would give us a 2-year warning. Well, they paid and they paid and they paid. And then I believe it was in 2008, out of the blue, they decided to stop paying with no notice. And DeKalb County was sued. Roy Barnes Legal Group sued on behalf of 2 employees. And that case was finally settled last year. And so now DeKalb County is having to pay the employees that were employed at that time. So
I think also at the time it was first contemplated in 1977, there were concerns about the solvency of Social Security, and they viewed this as a dual entitlement. And obviously we now see the consequences of that. But I think at the time they were trying to save Social Security by eliminating the benefits for individuals who might be, quote, double dipping would be their terminology.
Gwinnett County also withdrew from Social Security, but they set up a retirement system that was more like Social Security, I believe. Whereas DeKalb County, for the first, I don't know, 20 or 30 years, had one fund that the employees paid into. It was not really financially a very good fund. And sometime, I believe it was in the mid-90s or close to 2000, that we were given a choice of being able to invest that money rather than having something that earned something equivalent to a savings account interest.
I have a question. I'm in this situation where I work now does not take out Social Security. Can I or should I pay into Social Security so that I don't end up in a situation like this? Because my first part of my career, I did work for a county that took out Social Security. And I'm concerned about retiring now.
Carly, we can't just pay in.
Right, you can't do that.
Wow.
You're with the rest, you're stuck with us. We're all stuck together. And if we're in systems that don't pay into Social Security, we're stuck until and unless this federal law is changed.
So like they said in the video, Carly,
Yeah,
you have to make your own investments and have your own savings because you cannot pay into Social Security like you would into a 501, a 401k. It's not like that. It's absolutely a payroll deduction system. And if you're not an employer who deducts those withholdings from your employee's paycheck, then there's a problem.
You should also make sure that they're paying into Medicare for you.
they're required to do that now, no matter what.
Now, they weren't back when I was working,
Yeah, they are.
when I first started working.
Lisa, may I say something about the double dipping?
Certainly, Patrick.
This is an argument that has been told me, and so our viewers, if we're going to lobby on behalf of this, they need to understand that double dipping is not really double dipping, because they would pay an individual, another individual, or they pay us, either one. So the thing that people have to understand is the federal retirement is a retirement system. In my case, I have Alabama retirement and I have Georgia retirement. Am I triple dipping? No, I'm not. There are three separate buckets that were paid into. So when they hear this argument, they have to make it clear, the legislature is clear, that you don't pay anything into the state retirements. So how am I double dipping? I am receiving what I am working for. You would pay someone else if you were working in the private industry and they paid into Social Security and they paid into their own retirement. They would get both of them fully, just like we're paying, like in my case, in Alabama, I paid into both. This is what people don't understand. This is an argument we have to be schooled to make sure, because they will come back at you saying, well, it's not fair to double dip. Well, here's the argument. No, that's not true.
How can it be double dipping anyway if you're paying into both pots? You're just taking out or getting what you pay into both of them.
Yeah. And I think,
Terrible.
I think Patrick's saying that that's what they have. That's what when people push back and say, well, you shouldn't get both. And I think my example would be, I know there are people now who are, who did not have a pension in their employment. So they paid into a 401k. Well, the amount that they're getting from their 401k doesn't impact their Social Security. Everybody just says they were smart and did the right thing and invested in their 401k. Well, we were smart and did the right thing and became educators with a pension. So why should that impact what we've particularly paid in, or if your spouse has paid in? I think that's one of the things I've heard people say is, well, you didn't pay into Social Security, so you shouldn't get anything. Yes, people did pay in. And Carly, I think your situation happens to a lot of people because they don't know that one system pays and one system doesn't. And you don't know, I'm going to guess, until you hear it from GAE that this is going to be an issue, because I've talked to teachers throughout the state who are in systems that don't pay into Social Security, and they did not realize that.
Yes, because when you're young and you're trying to get your first job as an educator, you don't ask whether or not they're taking out Social Security. You're just trying to get the job.
That's right. Or you're moving to a new system and you don't ask, do they take out Social Security? I just want to go to this system because there's it's closer to home, or it's a good system. You don't ask that question.
It never occurred to me that DeKalb County wouldn't be paying into Social Security. I'd never heard of that.
Exactly. So I kind of want us to move on a little bit because we got a couple other things we need to talk about this evening. But this is something that is very important and that all educators need to know about. So if you're watching us this evening and you didn't know and you don't know about your system, you need to find out, and you need to help educate the others in your work sites, in your system. We're going to switch and talk about the state legislature, because I want Tony to tell us our retired are doing something kind of special next Tuesday. And I want her to tell us about that. And I will put the link for the registration in the comments, Tony. I'll go ahead and do that now.
Okay, well, GAE Retired has been sponsoring a Capitol tour for the last couple of years. And we switched to virtual because of the public health concerns. And so on December 7th at 10 o'clock, right? 10 o'clock. We will have a virtual tour of the state capitol. We will have several speakers from the state legislature. Dr. Buster Evans, the executive director of the teacher retirement system, will join us. We will share some photographs of the interior of the capitol and of the exterior campus. We will have speakers talking to us about legislation that they are going to drop or that's in committee right now. And so it promises to be a very good orientation for our day at the Capitol. So we invite you all to follow the link to register to join us on December 7th. And we welcome everybody, active and retired and pre-retired subscribers.
Okay, and Tony mentioned Day at the Capitol. So I'm going to label these and put them both in the comments. The virtual Capitol tour, which is next week. And Joe, tell us what we're doing Day at the Capitol.
Yep, so we're confirmed for February 24th, which is a Thursday. Should be a good time, roughly the middle of the session. We'll have a good idea what's going on some of the key issues that we face at the Capitol this year. It's going to be an interesting session to say the least. We expect private school vouchers to be back. As you know, if you've listened to any GAE call in the last year, our concern with school district waivers, where school districts can basically request and always receive a waiver from state laws on things like duty-free lunch, class sizes. There are waivers given for programs related to English as a second language, special education, a whole range of things that we think are not serving our students well and making life more difficult for our educators too. There's going to be a lot of other issues that they're going to be raising their head at this session. There's a lot of talk of so-called parental rights bills. There's a new book banning bill coming. There's going to be just legislation regarding teaching of racism in school. There's going to be legislation that prohibits school boards from mandating masks, just about anything you can think of. Of course, we've got budget issues as well. QB has been cut substantially in the last two budgets. We're hoping for those for QB to be fully funded and those cuts restored. There's a pending $2,000 raise, a promise from the governor for classroom teachers that we're expecting to be passed this year. So there's a lot going on. Having a strong turnout at the Capitol on February 24th is really critical to our success in getting our message across and raising the issues that we're engaged in. So I hope you will make plans to be there again Thursday, February 24th. We'll be starting off at what's called the Sloppy Floyd building, which is directly adjacent across the street, diagonally across the street from the Capitol. Then we'll, COVID providing, come over to the Capitol and then retire to Sloppy Floyd again. Both in the morning and lunch sessions, we'll be hearing from a number of legislators. In between, we'll be lobbying them on these very issues. So it's very important, and we need your presence there.
And Joe, if I might add, one of the some of the things we'll be talking about on the 7th to prepare for the 24th, and I'm already registered for the 24th, by the way, will be parking, how to ride MARTA, how to get into the Capitol from the one entrance that's available where the handicap entrance is. We'll be talking about all of that as an orientation for the 24th.
Excellent.
And Joe, I've been down there with you during the special session that ended right before Thanksgiving. It was a lot different inside than it's ever been before. Do we have any clue what it's going to look like inside the Capitol in January?
I think what you and I saw at the Capitol during the special session may be similar to what we see in January. It was restricted. Access to legislators was limited. Access to committee hearings was limited, but not as limited as it had been in the session earlier in the year in January. The House, what we call the ropes, which is the stanchion in between the chamber and the hallway where the public and lobbyists often congregate to talk with members of the House, was still cordoned off and access limited there. Senate was a little more easy to get to the stanchions and the ropes, but there was no paid service to slip notes to legislators. If you had their cell phone or text number, you could buzz them off the floor. Masks were mandated for the legislators, but I would not say that was universally followed there. The legislators were tested once a week for COVID. I think those are the kind of protocols you're likely to see again in January. But we'll have to wait and see if Omicron or some other variant comes along, it could tighten up substantially. And of course, it was just 2 years ago or a year ago that the whole session shut down for months because of COVID. So you never really know, but that's what I'm anticipating right now.
So since we are talking, that's a good segue. We have some good news today for GAE, y'all, and I'm so excited that I get to share it this evening. I'm gonna hold it up. I printed it. Our lawsuit against the governor and Paulding County is not over. It has not ended because the issues in Paulding County of not protecting educators and students remains, and it remains throughout the state. So today, the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Georgia chapter of the American Academy of Pediatrics have filed an amicus brief in our lawsuit in support of our position that masks should be mandatory in all of our public schools and all of our public school facilities, buses, etc. So that's the good news. I keep saying that we're listening to the experts. We're listening to the experts. We're all teachers here. We understand instruction, but the American Academy of Pediatrics are the experts. And they agree we should be wearing our masks in our school buildings all the time. And so that's our good news for the day. And we will not stop. This won't be over until either we go to court or the pandemic's over. So that's kind of where we are. But that was our good news for today. Yeah, hopefully that will be good news for our students. Joe, it scares me that we have legislators that want to say the local school board cannot do the right thing and require everyone to wear masks in their buildings.
Yeah, I mean, if you follow the news at all, you're aware that school boards are in the crossfire of a lot of folks right now.
Yeah.
You know, at one point it was over critical race theory, seemed to shift toward mask mandates, but there is an organized national effort to attack public education. And we will see that in Georgia in January. It will manifest itself in the type of bills that you just described, handcuffing school boards from taking the appropriate health and safety measures. It'll manifest itself in the voucher fight as well. And they think some of these school board issues make it a good time for them to advance a pro-private school voucher agenda. So yeah, for public education is a target right now, unfairly so, but it is, and we'll be seeing that in Georgia as well.
Let me do another good news before we do some bad news. Our next good news, I am going to put the link in the comments for NEA member benefits informational sessions on student loan forgiveness. And I hope that Tony and Judy aren't raising their hands on this, but I know my hand's raised. I still have student loans. Sharon, I think you probably do. No, oh, Sharon did a good job, Sharon. Carly, you still got student loans? No, just me? Okay. Well, I do. And I know a lot of our members do. And and I posted this before Thanksgiving. We have a member in DeKalb who said I could share her story, who no longer has any student loans. She received the notification right before Thanksgiving. They were all forgiven. Yes. Now, here's the best part. They were all forgiven because she participated in the NEA member benefits, student loan programs, and there's a Savvy is what it's called. It's a paid service, but it is free for 1 year for NEA and GAE members. And they helped her get everything lined up, and she received the notification her student loans were forgiven. So for all of our members that have student loans, or if you know and love somebody that has a student loan, there are sessions next Monday, Tuesday, and then on the 20th. And I put the link so you can sign up and attend those sessions. And I want to know how I'm the only one in the room with student loans still.
I'm
Paid
too
everything
old.
everything out of pocket. Everything out of pocket.
You went to Alabama, right? Is that why?
No, well, yeah, my specialist that I'm almost done with, but yeah, no, my master's is at Piedmont College here in Georgia, now Piedmont University. Carly, how did you do it?
I had to pay out of pocket.
Okay.
I worked and paid.
And
So-
that, okay, so, does this include NEA retired for the, we got a question, and I think she's asking, does it include NEA retired for the member benefits and the student loan information? I hope that's what you're asking, and yes, it does. Any NEA member is welcome to attend, and you get the same access as somebody who's still working. And if you are retired and have student loans, I really hope they can help you get that taken care of, because if you've already retired and still have them, you've definitely done your years of service.
Well, Lisa,
Yes, ma'am.
isn't it true that we have a mutual friend who will remain nameless that had over $70,000 in student loans forgiven?
I don't know, Judy, I'm gonna say, I'm sure you're right, because I think we have a couple of mutual friends that have managed to get their loans forgiven. And
Well,
I don't have
I
don't know.
was blown away when I heard the amount.
Yeah, I hadn't heard that amount. I'm blown away now. So yes, but think about it, y'all. If you've worked for 10 years or 11 years as an educator, or 20 years or 30 years, I mean, that just should be something that's done. But I know we have educators that I've talked to that are saying, I've been teaching for 10 years and the amount I owe on my student loans is the same now as it was when I started, and I've been paying every month. Yeah, 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 eek. Okay. I think we need to talk about COVID again, because by the time we meet again in 2 weeks, we're gonna have a real ugly milestone for the number of children. And it is unreal to me that we have failed to protect our children. As of today, there have been 198,141 children with COVID-19. So in the next week, that number is going to be 200,000. And
Wow.
23 children in the state of Georgia have passed away from COVID-19. So it's not over. And I think that's something that we really have to say. It's not over. And we still have to be doing the right things in our schools to protect our children. And that's, I don't get speechless often, y'all. Y'all know me that way. But this, it really, so as we go forward, 2 weeks, 2 weeks and 2 days. Is that what it is, y'all, before the break? 2 weeks and 2 days. Yes, yes, yes.
As Chuck Woolery used to say, 2 and 2.
Yeah. So let's protect our children. We know it's still an issue. And unfortunately, it was this time last year that it started to get bad here in Georgia. And, you know, hopefully it won't again. But hoping isn't going to help. We've got to wear our masks, socially distance, wash our hands, increase the ventilation, stay home when you're sick. And if you are eligible, get vaccinated and vaccinate our children, because our children are now eligible. Let's prevent more of our children from getting sick and dying. But before we go, we're going to talk about something happy. Money. Who wants some money? Carly, you want some money? Sharon, money? Joe, money? Okay, so in 2 weeks, on December 15th, we will be doing Facebook Live, and we will be talking about and giving away some money. If you are a new member of GAE this year, your name has gone in the hat for a $250 cash prize. If you have recruited someone to be a new member of GAE, your name's going in a different hat for a $250 cash prize. And if you have recruited 10 or more members, your name's in the hat for a $500 cash prize. And we'll be giving that money away 2 weeks from tonight. Sharon?
I'm claiming it already. I'm claiming it already.
So we will have Dr. Carter, our executive director, is our special guest that evening once again. And I'm going to see if I can find out who these people are that have recruited more than 10 members, so they can tell us all how they did it. And we will be giving away the money in 2 weeks. And Tony, I'm sure your name's in one of those buckets, because
We are recruiting.
Yes.
I do have my name in one of those buckets.
All right. So that is the good news in 2 weeks. Joe, do you have some good news for us before then?
Should I have some good news? No, Thanksgiving really put me in a position of being grateful and thankful for everything that I have, and for my family and children. And I feel that way going into Christmas too. Lots to be grateful for. And GAE is a part of that.
I think we can all say that. I think we're all grateful for all of our members, whether you're a new member or you've been a member for 40 years. And we are grateful and thankful for everything you do for our children every day. And with that, we have come to the end of our hour. So we will invite you to join us December 15th when we are talking about membership and giving away money. And just in case your name's not in that hat yet, but you have somebody you want to join and they can put your name as referred by and get in the hat, we will put the link in the comments where you can join GAE.
Lisa, can you tell everyone how they can do it online in case they don't have an application? I think that's important. And the most important thing to do is just ask, wouldn't you like to be a member? That's that, because most of the time they're just never asked.
Patrick, I gave them the link in the comments. That's joingae.org. And they can go there to join online. It's there. Thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Bye.